Hello, welcome back to the Football Terrace. Good evening. It's 5 o'clock. This is the only place to be. Make sure the like buttons are hit. You're subscribing. You're sharing this on your streams. I'm joined now by one of the most prominent, for me, I know your profile says future journalist, but we'll put you into that category now. Eduardo Hagn is here with us, big Arsenal fan, all the way from Chile. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. Thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure. I've seen the program before, and being here is just an honor.
Not a problem at all. The honor is all ours. And one of our panelists, I know he's been eagerly anticipating this, a gal from EGTV, already in the audience watching. Remember, viewers, you can get any questions you want in. Member chats and super chats, of course, take priority. So any questions you have for Eduardo, get them in now. It's been an interesting weekend in the Premier League. Big protests at Manchester United yesterday, all to do with sort of takeovers and whatnot. Arsenal themselves currently in the process of a potential takeover. We're hearing all types of different rumors. 1 minute there's going to be no sale. The next minute there's an opportunity for Daniel Ek to go in and buy it. As far as you understand, where are things right now with an Arsenal takeover and the Kroenkes potentially leaving Arsenal?
Well, everything's in the water right now. You can't really say that Ek is going to have the ability to take over or that Kroenke is going to sell. So it's just a game of waiting for us, for the fans, and the owner will know, and the potential buyer will know when they make their offer to try to overtake him and give a new future to our club. At the moment, there's nothing certain, so that's the stance right now.
Yeah, that's my view on it, and I think the reports every day seem to be so varied. One moment, it's almost a categoric, there'll be no sale. And then you hear Daniel Ek speaking, and he sounds very confident they can move things forward. Yesterday morning, the Daily Mail spoke about how Arsenal have actually been on the market for sort of the last couple of years. They're just waiting for an offer. In terms of your opinion, do you think this is something that can and will happen in the short term? Do you think that there'll be a bid? Do you think if someone bids, say, 1.7, 1.8 billion, do you think the Kroenkes will sell, or do you think that they're in this for the long haul?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. For example, I think 1.7, 1.8 will not do the job, but I think it will start conversations, which is primordial in my opinion. And hopefully they go, but it's not going to be short term at all. For me, at least it's going to stay 6 months. So this summer we're going to have to be under Kroenke, and then after that we're going to have to see. Ek has the backing of Vieira, Bergkamp, Henry, so it's a very, very interesting proposition for the fans as well. Everybody's on board, I suppose. 90% of the people want this to happen. So I think it's a game of waiting at the moment, and we will see.
Do you think it's important for the fans to keep the pressure up? So we know there's another protest that's scheduled for this Thursday before the Europa League game. Do you think that element will give fans more of a chance of achieving what they want if they keep protesting, being noisy, and keep pushing these agendas?
Well, of course, for me, we have to protest as much as we can. But I didn't think personally that Thursday was the game because we're playing for a whole season. So I think we could leave that for the league games, which doesn't really have any impact on our future. So, yeah, but I think we have to keep the pressure up because the fans, with their voice, change football, as we saw with the Super League.
They do. And I think the energy remaining is going to be so key in terms of this. We will get onto the transfers a little bit later. You mentioned Thursday night. Arsenal are playing for their whole season in that game. How confident are you going up against Villarreal in that return leg? A goal behind, but with an away goal. How do you feel about that game right now?
Well, I feel nervous because we play against ourselves every game. That's a problem. I am not worried about Villarreal. I am worried about us because we can go there and stick 5 past them if we want to, but we can easily concede 3 and not score. So it's just a game against ourselves, and I am confident because I think this team has what it takes when it's in the moment of pressure. And I would love to see a United Arsenal final, like most fans in the world and neutrals and everything.
Yeah, you are right. I don't think Man United fans really don't want it. There isn't. I haven't spoke to a United fan yet that is desperate to play Arsenal. I think because Arteta has really had Ollie's number.
He has
Like,
all his number right there.
yeah,
He does.
when you look at it as an Arsenal fan, would you rather Man United or Roma in the final? Which would you be more confident of beating?
Well, of course, Roma, but I think against United, you have to. It's a one-off game. I mean, I'm scared that it could happen like Baku, and we're gonna be humiliated again. But it's a chance you have to take. You're playing for your future. United don't have to play for anything apart from a trophy because they're in the Champions League. So we play for everything. United play for a trophy.
No, I understand that. And in terms of playing for futures, we heard a rumor from Tangredi Palmari in the week that Mikel Arteta's job was potentially under threat if they were to lose this semi-final or lose the final, because the reports suggest that the board at Arsenal are not happy with him. Have you heard about any kind of problems internally for Mikel Arteta, or do you feel that they're still fully behind him?
I think they're still fully behind him because they've said so, and it's something about believing in the project. And look, for me as a fan, I think going out to Villarreal and ending 10th in the league would be unforgivable, and I would seriously ask questions. But I think the hierarchy haven't done that yet. But we will see on Thursday. That game's defines everything, not only Arsenal's future, but Mikel Arteta's as well.
Very true. And in terms of going out at this stage in the season that you've had, where do you stand as an Arsenal fan? Is it a case of the squad not being good enough, the manager not being of the right quality, the club not being run correctly? What do you think has kind of led to it being such a, especially domestically, such a poor season for Arsenal?
I think it's a mix of everything, to be honest. I think the manager has had his fair share of mistakes from being a novice, a rookie. So, and the recruitment, we needed much more than Partey, to be honest. And we waited until the last second to make the fans excited and everything. But we truly needed an Awad or someone else to complement everything and take this team to the next level, because starting half of the season without a number 10 is unforgivable, in my opinion. Like, how are you supposed to create? You have Willian, who, for me, we shouldn't have signed, because you've seen 35 games already and not a shot on 3 shots on target and no goal. So for me, the priorities of this club are wrong. The people that are making the decisions, as good as they sound in interviews and everything, they don't have a clue, because come on, man, it's Arsenal Football Club. We're not a mid-table club. We're thinking like a mid-table club, and that's what worries me. Fans as well, they're starting to have this mediocre mindset that's saying, oh, we can't get this player, we're Arsenal. So they're going to go to United, and come on, man, we're a big club. We have to attract these big players to go back to where we belong, which is with the Uniteds, with the Liverpools, with the Cities. Well, City, no, of course, they're a small club, but they got bought, and they're lucky just like Chelsea. So, but if we don't spend, we have no future at all.
And of course, spending is going to be easier with Champions League qualifications, there's no doubt. You speak of that kind of mediocre mindset from players. When it comes to transfer,
and the fan base as well.
No, and I understand that. There's some big names you're linked to this summer, and I want to go through some of them with you. One of the biggest is Jack Grealish. I keep seeing this name pop up here and there. What's the story surrounding Jack Grealish and a potential move to Arsenal Football Club?
Well, he's the perfect fit for the club. I am 100% certain of that. He's one of the best players in the league, and he plays for Aston Villa, which, respect to them, of course. They're probably not going to make any European competition, and Grealish is way better than his current club, although he loves them. But I think he deserves another opportunity. Maybe if it's not Arsenal, that he could go to City or to United or to anyone, because he's that good. And Arsenal, the only chance they have is if they make Champions League football and they make the proper sales to be able to afford that deal. It's going to be around 80, 90 million pounds, and that's a big amount.
Do you think Jack Grealish would have the appetite to join Arsenal if you're in the Champions League?
Well, I think so. I personally think so. I would like to think he still sees us as a big club, and well, he's English, so that helps. So, well, I would pray he comes, of course, if we get there. But I mean, what can you do? This club has fallen so far behind that the only way to bring it back up is by signing players like that.
And have Arsenal made any, as far as you're aware, have Arsenal made any kind of attempt speaking to representation, speaking to Aston Villa? Have they made any kind of inroads into a Jack Grealish move at this moment in time, or are they waiting to secure Champions League football first?
I know that for a fact that last year, if Aston Villa would have gone down, Arsenal would have done everything to get Grealish because he would have been much cheaper. He would have been like around 40, 45 million. And that would have been a different story. But now this year, Arsenal are 10th and on the verge of getting eliminated. So I think they're waiting at the moment, but I think they have all the background to get that done if eventually we get there and we sell the proper players and we have the money to afford that deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds to me like a lot is riding on Champions League football. That Champions League qualification could trigger a massive summer for Arsenal, and Jack Grealish could be a part of that equation.
Exactly. Look, the owners are on big pressure to spend. If they don't want to sell, the fans are going to do everything they can to make them spend money. And if they spend money, they're going to appease some fans. I don't think everyone, but it will be a right move in the right direction for them. If you see it that way.
I understand that. We always interact here with our viewers at the Football Terrace. Is what we do. There's a number of, we have a lot of rivals here, as you know, you've watched us. There's quite a few people in the comment section saying that Arsenal would be a step down for Jack Grealish. What would your response to that be, Eduardo?
Well, I think you can see by this season, you could argue that's true, but of course, playing for Arsenal gives you another dimension. That's true as well. We're a massive brand. We are a top 10 club in the world in terms of fans and viewership and TV deals. And look, if we're in the Champions League, we're gonna need a star that takes us there, and Jack Grealish will come as the best player in the team. So, for me, that's a good deal that you can offer a player to come. You have the keys of the Emirates. This is your team. Go out and enjoy yourself in the biggest stage of football.
And I understand that logic. I understand that logic behind that completely. There are two other big, young, attractive names in the Premier League that Arsenal have had links to as well. The first one is Lamptey from Brighton. There are a lot of rumours that Bellerin is going to leave, maybe going to Paris Saint-Germain. It's going to be opening in that right-back position. Is that a player that you're aware that Arsenal have had a lot of time and focus on?
Yeah, I am aware of that, and he's not the only one in the list. Of course, there's a lot of names, and like I could have Hakimi, champion of the Serie A yesterday. There's Emerson Royal. There's other names there, so we're gonna see. Of course, Bellerin looks like he's about to leave, so we're gonna have to send a right back. And for me, many people say, "Oh, Callum Chambers there, so we don't have to buy a right back." For me, that's not enough. For me, if you want to compete for top 4 and potentially for the league, you can't have Callum Chambers at right back. So you have to spend there, and you have to think like a big club, and that's it. Move forward and sign.
From your point of view, in terms of what you heard, you mentioned Emerson Royal, there's Lamptey, Hakimi. Who do you think Mikel Arteta and Arsenal are going to put sort of as their number one target in that position?
For me, number one target, if everything goes right and money is available, for me is Hakimi. For me, the most sensible move will be Emerson, and then Lamptey, because for me, Lamptey, he's very talented, but I have a lot of questions on his injury woes and his physicality to play for a top 4 side.
Yeah, I do understand. I mean, Hakimi, I still don't quite understand why Real Madrid let him go. It makes no sense to me. He was so good at Dortmund last year. He's had a very good season, I believe, at Inter Milan, based on things that I've read as well. But that right back area, there's a lot of talent out there across the world, and having good fullbacks is so important. I think it's such an area that Arsenal need to improve. They need to improve massively as well. Also in the middle of the park, I've Bissmouma, a few other names have been mentioned as potential reinforcements to play alongside Thomas Partey. There's not a great deal of love for Granit Xhaka. We know that El Neni isn't of the standard. Is Bissmouma one of the main targets, or are there other people that Arsenal were looking at to come into that central midfield area to really bolster the ranks and strengthen the core of the team?
Well, everything points that way, that Bissmouma is the one that they want. And I mean, can you fault him? I don't think so, because he's a good player. For me, he's a good player, but for me, it's the wrong profile that we have to chase, because Bissmouma, as great as he is in his role of being a 5 and a DM, We need someone that arrives in the box and can offer goals. We have the fewest Premier League goals from midfield in the Premier League this season, so that's unforgivable, and we have to fix that. For me, there's many other options out there that could be better for the price. For me, Brighton are asking for 40 million, 35 million pounds, and for that you can get Bubakari Sumare, you can get probably Renato Sanchez, even Huzamawar for that price. So it's a thing of planning, and if they choose to go that way, you can't really fault them because he's a good player. But for me, if I were the technical director, I wouldn't go that way just yet. For me, if you have money remaining after signing a good center midfielder that offers the output, you can go ahead and sign him because we need depth as well.
Yeah, the goals from midfield have been an issue. Igal actually pointed out on our show yesterday that Scott McTominay has scored more goals for Man United this season than all your midfielders combined for the last 2 years, which is astronomical, really, considering the number of goals that used to come. Like Arsenal used to really spread their goals throughout their team. It felt like everybody was capable of, he'd get 5, he'd get 10, he'd get 15. The striker might get 20. Now it's just, if Lacazette or Aubameyang are not scoring, or if Saka's not putting a goal in the back of the net, nobody else in your team can score.
Exactly. And look, as good as Emil Smith-Rowe is, and he offers a lot, and Odegaard as well, they're creative, they're elusive, they're everything, but they don't score. So you have that issue right there, and you have to solve it some way. Because Pepe, for me, he's getting better right now, but you paid 72 million for him to score, to put numbers like Salah, Mane, and he's not doing it. So you're going to have to look elsewhere, and you're going to have to spend again.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Goals are, especially as you mentioned Jack Grealish earlier, and you spoke about Grealish maybe being the main target. That man will score some goals, but he's a creator. It's, who's going to put that ball in the back of the net, and that's going to be important because having the creativity without the finishes is frustrating. Having finishes without creativity is frustrating, and it's getting that balance right that's going to be key for Arsenal. So many games this season that you lost in that horrible run from September to December, where in a lot of them you were the better team, you just couldn't score goals, and then you'd have a silly red card or you concede a goal against a run of play and kind of collapse from that point. And I think it's such an interesting summer for Arsenal because whether they stick with Arteta or not, improving on mid-table has to be the most important thing going into next season because 3 years running, finishing between 8th and 11th, that can't be acceptable for anybody involved with Arsenal.
Absolutely. I totally agree. We have to move. We have to do our thing.
No, I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. Sorry, I just got a bit distracted by something come up there. Augustine, one of our members here, says spot on. Eduardo Bissmouma has the same profile as Partey. We need Sumari or D. Paul. Creativity is definitely going to be very important. There's no doubt about it. If you do have any questions for Eduardo, get your super chats in or get your member comments in as well, and we will put them up as a priority for you today. We'll get that done. What's this here? Gal says, I want John McGinn from Villa with Grealish. Give Villa 120 million. What's your view on John McGinn? Would he be someone that can improve that creativity in your midfield?
Absolutely. I am a very big fan of John McGinn. For me, when I see him play for Scotland, for some reason, I like watching Scotland for Tierney, Robertson, McTominay, and he impresses me every time. He arrives to the box, he fights, he defends, he's everything. And I think he's very underrated. I think that would be a very shrewd move for any top 6 club.
Yeah. I think that there are a number of players that are available at other Premier League teams where you think, you just think, how much better could they make us? Could we prize them away and do a job with them as well? There's no doubt about that. One player you mentioned as well, Odegaard. I think he's been very good since he's come to Arsenal. What's the likelihood of keeping him next season or buying him permanently? What's the word on the street in relation to his future at the end of the season?
There's one man that defines his future, and that's Zinedine Zidane. If he stays at Real Madrid, our chances go up by a lot. We probably can loan him again or even offer something to Madrid and keep him permanently. But that's going to depend on Arsenal's point of view if we have to pay and how much Real Madrid would ask for. But Zidane, I don't think he's a big fan. He sent him on loan like the last 3 years, so we're going to have to see. And if he stays there, the chances are way higher.
Listen, I agree with you. I think that's my take on all of this. Zidane clearly doesn't, no matter what he says in public, doesn't rate him. Otherwise, he'd play him. Um, it's interesting, isn't it? If they might win the Liga and the Champions League, they might win absolutely nothing this season. It's going to be so tight, and that may, not winning anything and winning both could equally both make Zidane leave. It might be, do you know what? I won 4 Champions Leagues, 2 league titles. I'm going to go now. Or he could miss out and go, right, I'm going to go again. Or he might miss out on the board, say, listen, they're very ruthless at Real Madrid. It's just, it doesn't matter. You've won 3 on the bounce. You fouled here. We're going to move you on in relation to that. A few comments here say Zidane is staying. I think we'll see. I think that's very open-ended in relation to that. Arsenal Central here says, Odegaard hasn't shown enough for me. We need a central midfielder who scores. He is not it. If we get him and a goal-scoring midfielder, then we are good.
I agree. I think Odegaard alone is not enough. For me, he's good. He's a great second phase player, which is to grab the ball, pass the ball, give a through pass, make the pre-assist. But I don't think he's that key player that will change your team, which is what we need in Grealish.
No, I agree. Igal's put a question here. But Igal, I've sent you the link, by the way, if you want to come on and have a chat as well, buddy. It's in your WhatsApp. But Igal says here, we'll wait for that. Igal might come on and have his say. Leicester will bottle the top 4. Maybe. I didn't mean to click on that one, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. We have a comment here that says, thoughts on Saliba and Mavropanos playing with us next season?
Well, I think William Saliba, he should have stayed this season because I think he's better than Holding. But next season, he's going to come a better player. He's more ready now. He hadn't played for 6 months when he came to Arsenal. So now, after being Nice's best player of the month for like 3 months in a run already, he has to make it his place here. And if we don't renew David Luiz, he's going to have his place and time to play. For Mavropanos, he's been great in the Bundesliga, but I've seen reports from Chris Whitley, amazing journalist, that Arsenal are looking to either loaning again or either selling him permanently. So that's a decision you have to make if you want to reinvest. If you can get 20 million for him and spend elsewhere in a position of need, for me, you have to do it.
Yeah, the Saliba one's interesting because he's very, very talented, Saliba. Of course, a little bit of controversy 5-6 weeks ago with a video that came out, and I don't really think that's going to damage his career. It's just young boys at the time being stupid in a dressing room with a video camera, and I'm sure there are multiple things that go on in dressing rooms that if the public was shown, would all be like, "Wow, that's mad." But he's very talented. Mavropanos, I can't see Mavropanos to be. Most players that get loaned out rarely play for their parent club again, if that makes sense. Only a handful go for development. The majority sort of fall by the wayside, if that makes sense. But we will see. There's quite a few people asking, what about Philip Coutinho? He's linked with a move to Everton. Could you see him coming back to the Premier League?
I could see him coming back here. He played his best football here. So look, going back to Everton after playing for Liverpool and being kind of a legend, it's difficult, but weirdest things have happened in football, and I think Everton would be a good move for him. Personally, I wouldn't take him at Arsenal. There's many links to him to come here, but his level has dropped. He's aging, injury, so Arsenal have to look to the future, and they have to start thinking like a big club and not like a club that's taking these washed players and because of their name to play for the club. And I think it's a move we can't make, but if another team wants to make it, sure.
Yeah, it is important, as you say. I mean, you can't be handing out any more 250, 300 grand a week contracts to Williams. You can't. It's just such a waste of money and time and effort. It's going to be really important to kind of get that right, as it were. Viewers, we're going to get players.
There are only a few players that there are only a few players that are worth that. Probably look, Cavani, he was a good bet. He's showing what he's worth, what he's being paid, and he was a good move. But then also you have your James Rodriguez as well. He was worth it, but you have a lot of more cases that things like that don't work. starting with Willian.
Yeah, I think you always have to look at, so Paris Saint-Germain didn't want to lose Cavani. They wanted to keep him. No one wants Philippe Coutinho. Everywhere he goes, they don't want him. That in itself should be the key factor. You know, a player wants a 3-year contract. His parent club says no, or the club that owns his transfer card say no. That should be a marker for you. If Chelsea were desperate to keep Willian, then it would have been a good. It's just being done right. I always look at German clubs like that. The German clubs never want to sell their players. Well, Bayern Munich never want to sell their players at all. They're not a selling club. So if they're really willing to let somebody go, that makes me so suspicious. I think, well, what's wrong with them? Because you never sell. Exactly. So why are you looking to get rid of somebody in that way? We're going to share the link for people to call in right now. We're going to share it we're going to share it in the live comment section and on the Discord server as well. So make sure you phone in if you want to have your say. If you also check out the Football Terrace Twitter account, we have shared the link for today's stream. We also copied in Eduardo and his Twitter handle on that as well. So go to the Football Terrace page, give that a little retweet. Go give Eduardo a follow. A huge amount of followers on Twitter there, just under that 70,000 mark. So I think with everyone tuning in right now, we can get Eduardo past the 70,000 follower mark right now on socials. Go and get that done on Twitter right away. Trust me, this young, say young man, because everyone who does this is younger than me. It's going to be one hell of a journalist in the future. So make sure you're following, keeping abreast of all that's going on. You can call in, ask some questions as well. Have your say. Keep it respectful. Otherwise, I'll be dumping you straight out. Just done. It'll be over like that. So keep it respectful. Let's have a little look here. We've got KJ's with us, and Igal is about to join us as well. Now, KJ is one of our hosts, and Igal's a big Arsenal fan. Welcome, gents. I'll go straight to Igal on this. What would you like to ask, mate?
I'm not sure if you've seen my question earlier. Now that Norwich have been promoted, what's the likelihood that we can still get either Emi Buendia or Max Aarons? And do you think Arsenal's even interested in them now that their price is going to be higher because they're not in the championship anymore?
Personally, I think we have a good chance at both, but it will be a thing of if we get Champions League or not. For me, if you don't get Champions League, you're going to have to go for the Max Aarons, for the Buendias, because you're going to have to pay, but it's going to be easier to lure him to Arsenal than to lure him someone like Grealish. So I think our chances are good, and it's a matter of what happens this Thursday and in an eventual final, and that will determine our whole future.
And also, I've been hearing a lot of rumors that Lacazette will be leaving in the summer, and some of the transfer targets that I've been hearing at striker are not that appealing to me. I've heard rumors that we're going to go after plea from Gladbach. I've heard Waghorse. I've heard other rumors like we're going on after strikers that are lesser levels. Even Ivan Toney, who is more appealing to me because he's playing in the championship, but at the same time he's playing in the championship. Do you think we're going to go after a big striker, or are we going to go after a lesser profile with the scope to grow?
Look, for me personally, I think we are not going to go for a striker. People will say, wow, but for me, you have Aubameyang, you have Martinelli, who they just renewed Balogun. So for me, I think there are bigger needs, probably a creative left winger, right back, midfield depth. And because of the same thing, I think the center forward market right now is very dry. You can't really say, oh, that's the man you need and he'll guarantee you goals. So I think many of the players that we're linked to are risks. For me, look, Weghorst, Playa, for me, they're not Arsenal level. For me, they're probably West Ham, Everton, with all due respect, because Arsenal have bigger ambitions, and I think we have to go for a bigger player. And if we don't find that, to wait another year to get the right man.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, especially in that space. KJ's with us as well here. KJ, what's in your mind, bro?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a quick chat about Arsenal. I'm a Man United fan. Igal actually took one of my questions away in terms of like Buendia. Do you think that's an appealing option? But since that's been asked, I'm wondering, when do you think? I'm trying to phrase this correctly without being rude. When do you think Arsenal, as a football club, will accept certain aspects about themselves in terms of do you think it's another season outside of Europe when they will look at themselves and be like, right, we're doing things not in the correct way. We need to try and shake things up. Because I'm a person that believes they need a massive overhaul and going after players of not of names, but more like your Bendias, more like your Todys, Edwards from Celtic. And I feel like going after Grealish's from Arsenal perspective is very long and pointless because you could be using your money in better ways to fill the squad more. So I'm just wondering, Arsenal, is there a point where you think Arsenal are going to go down that route, or they're going to continue on with no big club and we can still attract the big names?
Well, for me, realizing doing things wrong should have happened long ago. With now, you can see Pepe as well because he's been worth 72 million, and you could have signed other players with that money. But I think it's time to change. It's time to create change in the way we do things. For me, Buendia, he's great, he's good, but I see it in a different way. I think we have to buy game changers and spend the money to change, because look, you can have 3 Buendias in midfield, but one Grealish will change you and will do whatever it takes to get you to top 4, and that will make a difference in my opinion. And look, Arsenal have been starved from stars in the recent past, and I think it's time to like a big club like United do. Look, United without Champions League football, they attracted Pogba, they signed Maguire and Wan-Bissaka for 130 million, and that's how they're starting to get back. But Arsenal don't have those means of spending the big amounts because our owner is greedy and he's never spent anything apart from the fact that they want to say he bought Partey, but that's not enough for me. For me,
Yeah.
Arsenal have to be buying on par with United and the other teams, because if not, we're gonna stay behind as we are doing right now.
Yeah, and my last question would be, I'm from where Jack Grealish is from, so I live in the same city as Aston Villa, and I've got a lot of friends who are Aston Villa fans, and listening to them, they've been talking about they're not looking to sell Grealish. Grealish is most likely to stay. They've got a project revolving around him, and they're gonna reinforce again, go again, and buy players to help Jack Grealish and Aston Villa go up the table. Do you think with Champions League football, Arsenal will actually spend the money on Jack Grealish? Because you're going to probably look at 80 million plus for that player. Do you think your ownership and your board will be willing to spend that money?
Well, I don't know if they're going to be willing, but they will have to. If not, the fans are going to do everything they can to make their voice known, because if they don't want to sell, they're going to have to spend. If not, the fans are going to do what Manchester United fans did yesterday, and it's going to get very ugly. So if there's a way to appease the fans, is to get a player like Grealish to come to the club and appease everyone, because a player of that caliber will say, oh, do something. But if they don't, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's interesting you say all of that. There's questions. At the same time, Pav comes in and says, you say Arsenal have big ambitions, but their wallet never matches that ambition. By the way, your accent is great. So Pav's a big fan of your accent, Eduardo. But I think the sentiment there from Pav is right. It's the spending, and it's okay to have good ambition, but then there's there is that element of how much of that is coming to fruition. Will they go out and do it? And I think that's one of the reasons why these protests are so important. At the very least, if you can't get your club to sell, you want them to be operating in a better way. And I think that so often in the last 10 years, Man United and Arsenal especially have bought substandard players that we've sort of polished them up a little bit, and we've tried to pass them off as being top of the tree, creme de la creme, the best in house. They're going to develop into future stars. But actually, we've bought good players. We haven't bought players with the genuine potential to become great, and we kind of live in hope that they deliver to sort of exceptional levels. And I think that it does send a message out to fans if you go and sign Jack Grealish. It does send a message out if you go and land. You bring in Jack Grealish, Hakimi, and then maybe someone like Bissmouma, I think it sends a message out to the Arsenal fans that we mean business. And I think it's going to be important, especially if they don't sell and they do want to win hearts and souls and minds back. It's going to be very important to do that.
I have a question about Leno. Eduardo, lately, and Leno has been experiencing a lot of tough time at Arsenal with his defending and everyone in front of him, and he's been getting a lot of criticism to the point where I'm even questioning, should Matt Ryan be playing over Leno at times? My question to you is, after hearing rumors today that Leno might be either moved on soon, and we've even heard from an interview from him a couple of weeks ago that he was not thinking about his future, and he's not even thinking about a new contract. Do you think Leno could be a person that would be moved in the medium or short term? For example, Szczesny's been linked to Arsenal today.
Well, I think so. Because his performances lately have not been what they must be. And I think Arsenal, for me, Leno, he's not the biggest problem, but he's going to be a problem. Want a challenge. So you're going to have to make decisions. For me, there's a player called Magnan from Lille who's been amazing this season, who's going to go for like 15 million euros. That's a player, even if you don't sell Leno competition, because I think Arsenal have committed the mistake of not giving him any type of competition and any type of like worry about his number one spot. And I think players get complacent when they have that type of scenario.
Yeah, I think the goalkeeper stuff, we spoke about this yesterday. That's an area that Arsenal haven't had a world-class goalkeeper since Lehmann. Some would argue he wasn't world-class, but it's been a long time. And that
for one season.
The sad thing is they could have had one. They could have had one with the potential to go on to be great, and they let him go. And now he's playing for the club that Jack Grealish plays for. So
yeah, very, very true. We're going to go to some more calls here. We're going to bring who we're going to bring. Yeah, sorry, go on.
However, I want to say about Emi that he showed that he doesn't have the mentality to take the number one spot at Arsenal, because he said, "Oh, I don't want to fight for the number one spot. I think my time here is done. I'd rather go to Aston Villa." I mean, what about him?
That's a fair point.
Yeah, no, that and all these things play a part, I suppose. You want someone with that. There was a comment here. We're going to go to some callers, and then we're going to do some super chats. We're going to go to the Mad Star 09 as a caller in just a moment. But there's a super chat that says, who would Bissmouma pick between Liverpool and Arsenal?
Well, I think it will depend on the player's view of what he wants to do. I think he'll choose, if he wants to win in the short term, I think he'll pick Liverpool. If he wants to play regularly and be key part of a team, he'll choose Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right way to put it. We're going to get Mad Star 09 on here now. Welcome to the Terrace. Who do you support, bro?
Respect, bro. I support Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
What do you want to say? Because it's my first time, innit? Now, obviously, I just want to say, yo, you see Jack Grealish, yeah? We need to go get that player like right now. You see, if we don't get Jack Grealish, I don't know what we're doing. Half of this team here needs to go. Every single majority of this team needs to go. I don't care. Aubameyang, Lacazette, I don't business. I want my team up there, top 4, fighting for that top 4. We can win titles, but we gotta be realistic. Some Arsenal fans don't want to be realistic. Like, yo, we're just not gonna spend bare money and just go, all right, then boom, 200 million on this player. The club's not gonna do that. We need adequate replacements. We need to go move like Leicester, play like a stature down. Like, yo, let's go bring in some players. Even if we're not gonna do it the millions and pound way and all of that, we gotta do it another way. You know what I'm saying? We need to get Jack Grealish though, man. 100%.
He's saying that as a fellow Brummy. I can hear it in his voice. He's like,
yeah. I'm a fellow Brummy. I'm from yeah.
and that's the attitude one Arsenal fans that I get. There's the can we or can we not, but let's go out and do it. Let's go out as a club. Let's lay down a marker. Let's spend some money and try and make an impact there. Listen, bro, thanks for coming on and having your say. We really appreciate that here at the Terrace. We had a super chat from Jordan that says, "What about Marcus Thuram? I think he played for
Gladbach. Plays at Gladbach.
Gladbach,
He's,
exactly.
brother. I mean, brother. Son. Sorry, son. It's his son.
Whose son?
Lilian Thuram.
Son of
Ah,
Lilian.
right. Sorry, you can say something, Eduardo.
Yeah. No, I said son of Lilian Thuram. I mean, he's a good player, but I think same. I don't think he's the profile we need. He plays like a left winger more than a center forward, and as talented as he is, he still lacks in some things, and I think he's not a risk we should take at the moment, given our situation.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Jordan also says, how about Jeremy Doku in the left wing position?
From Rennes, very good player. I saw him in the Belgian league, and he was very. But again, I think you have to sign someone that's not going to be a risk. Look, we spent 72 million pounds on Pepe, who was like the least risk you could make at the time because he was like in the charts, one of the best players in Europe of output, and I used to watch him every week, and he was sensational. And then look, he came here, he's performing like a 20-30 million player at most. So I think you have to, when you spend big money, you can't afford to go wrong.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Completely. You got to get that right. We'll do some more calls here. We've got Liverpool fan on next. Actually, no, we're going to we'll get Tom on in a moment. First, we've got the Arsenal realist on here. Abdul's here. What are you saying, Arsenal realist?
Yo, Terry, how are you?
Yeah, very well. What do you want to say?
I think, first of all, Grealish, amazing player. He's a great player. Obviously, I'd want him, but I don't think he would come. I think it's not a risk, but I'd love to have him. But personally, for his sake, I don't think he will come. I think it's a bad move for Grealish himself because I think Villa, are above us. But I think for him to, I'm not going to say downgrade because Arsenal are a bigger club than Aston Villa, but for him to come to Arsenal isn't an upgrade in Aston Villa, if you understand what I mean. I think if he went to a bigger club like United and City, not City, but you know what I mean, a better club like City or Chelsea, I think that's an upgrade. But I don't see Grealish coming. I don't see us having the funds for him unless Daniel Ek takes over. I don't believe he'll have the funds for it as well. I think we need to go for players that are not obviously not below our level, but players for like gems that we need. People like Buendia. I think that's players that we need to elevate ourselves. Players that aren't too costly, but players that are good enough to elevate us, if you understand what I mean.
I hear you on that. I mean, Eduardo, you spoke earlier about fans in the club having bigger ambitions than just settling for good players. Do you think this is an example of that? Do you agree that it's going to be hard or the player would reject Arsenal and it's not worth the time? Or do you think that the club still has the pulling power, the money to land a star as big as Jackie Grealish?
Look, in my opinion, there's a lot of context into this thing, which is what other top 6 clubs would want to make an 80 million move for Jack Grealish? Not any of those top 6 clubs have that need right now, as I see it. Chelsea have Mount, Chelsea have Ziyech, they have Havertz, United have Bruno Fernandes, they have Pogba, who play in the same position. Liverpool are not going to spend 80 million on Grealish because they have Mane and they don't play with a number 10. You have Tottenham, they're not going to be able to go out and sign an 80 million pound Grealish because they already have their attack sorted out. And then you have City, who need a center forward and going to go for Haaland, most likely. So Arsenal will be the only top 6 club that will have to go there for Grealish because they need the player more than anything. And as I see it as well, and the other thing is that you could sign 30 million players throughout the years. But how about if those 30 million players don't work? You've just wasted 90 million, who you could have just spent 80 million on Grealish and just secure a top player for the next 5 years.
I think that's a fair point being made there. I just want to just quickly, some fairly breaking news. I don't know how long this has been out for, but Thierry Henry has said, you need to put the DNA back into the club. Obviously speaking about Arsenal. He says, the identity for me is long gone. He says, Daniel Ek has already reached out. He has the funds they need to see. We are trying to find a solution involving the fans. Let's see where it goes. He has reached out. So Thierry Henry, I think I'm not sure if this is how old these quotes are. I'm just seeing them now trending on socials. he has come out and also confirmed that he knows the money is there. He wants to be involved in buying the club. And Daniel Ek, it was all rumored that had come out, but now one of the legends has said that. That has to be, Eduardo, encouraging news to see Thierry Henry, the most famous and greatest ever Arsenal player, come out and say, Daniel Ek is serious. The money is there. I'm serious. We are talking, and we have to put the DNA back into the club.
That is very encouraging for me. And this just confirms the news that that the three legends of the club are behind him. Ek. For me, the thing that Ek has done in this last day, usually buyers don't go public, but in this situation, you're taking all of the fans to your side, plus adding the legends to your budget, which will also include all the fans, in my opinion, are going to be behind this, because our hate against Kroenke is getting stronger by the day, and going public, reuniting the legends, saying the fans will have a voice in the team. It's just a perfect way to create movement for people to go out there and protest to make Kroenke sell. It's the best move possible, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go on, mate. Go on.
I want to ask everyone
something on that before you ask the question.
Go on.
I was going to say this Henry quote, there's a second part to it also, but I feel like this is just a power play because they cannot, like other businesses, they can't drive the price down or do anything, but what they can do is get everybody unanimously speaking about it. And this shows that the rumors that they weren't going to sell was just a bluff. And now everyone's calling their bluff, and we're going to see everyone has a price. They had a price 2 years ago, which was 1.7, and we're going to find out what their price is now.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. And I think it's the energy is what's important here is to maintain that and to keep putting that pressure on. What did stand out to me, the phrase at KJ is that's the biggest player in that club's history saying the word DNA. I've seen a lot of people like DNAs don't exist at a football club. The amount of times you see those faceless Twitter accounts say, I hate the words like DNA or the Arsenal way or the Liverpool way or the Man United way. How is it that the biggest clubs, the players in the history of these football clubs know there's a DNA and know there's a way that a club should operate, but yet certain fans think it doesn't exist? I find that amazing.
Yeah.
Realist, what was your question, bro?
I just want to ask everyone on this panel, do you think when players come to Arsenal, do you think they're blinded by the name? And in terms of that, I think we all know Arsenal have decreased and have downgraded, but do you think when players come to Arsenal, they automatically, when they hear the name Arsenal, they automatically think of their history, their Premier League's Arsenal one, and they don't think about the now? What's happening?
I'll go to Eduardo on that.
Well, I think so. I think it plays a big part to it that you saw a child and you say, oh, this team are big. Look at them winning everything. And I think that has a thing on the player. For me, if I were a kid now and in the future I wanted to be a football player, and Real Madrid comes in, although they're playing lower level than they usually are, I would still be Real Madrid because I would say I'm playing for this magical club that will elevate me forever, and it's like a dream come true. And that's what Arsenal, United, Liverpool, Barcelona, all these big clubs do. They create something in your mind that it's majestic to you. And I think that's why some players move to these clubs.
I would say I feel like the name draws them in, but then it's what is behind that. I feel like these players aren't dumb, you know what I mean? They're not like just little kids who want to go play for their favorite team. It's all right, cool. A club I respect and I know have come in for me. It's about, okay, now what are they doing behind that? I think players look at an Arsenal, look at United. And I personally believe from what I've seen of both clubs, there are reasons for them to have raised eyebrows, for them to question whether actually is it the best move for me to go there, not just because of the position those two clubs are in, but even the structure and even how the fans treat their players. Is that a turn-off? But at the same time, I also get it. If they are part of the team that brings Arsenal success again, or brings United success again, or one of these clubs who are seen as failing success, you become a legend. You become in football folklore. So it's like catch-22. It's like one of those ones where The name is good, but what behind it, it depends what the player wants. If he wants to become a legend and try and carry a team, United, Arsenal, Spurs, these kind of teams, they're top of the list. But if you look to cement trophies now,
yeah.
Let me say a short thing on that. I just feel like we have gone away from our profile and research that we would do on players. Before, character analysis was a main part of signings. Now I feel like we don't judge the character of the player. We don't look for players who have the scope and the mentality to improve themselves every single day. And we now sign players based on analytics and solely off of what we can see eye test. And sometimes you need to look deeper. You need to look at the player who's spending 20 minutes longer in training. You need to look at the player who's going hard in training more than the player who's just showing what they can do on the pitch 24/7, because that shows how much scope they have to grow as a player. And it's not about the player signing for the club. It's the personality of the player that we're signing for the club. That's what I think it is.
No, you're absolutely right there. It's the combination of those two things. Grealish will go to City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Leicester before Arsenal. But to Eduardo's point, Eduardo's kind of said that may be true, but are those players going to go in for him? Eduardo has said that the Champions League football being available for both Grealish and Arsenal are going to be imperative in getting that deal done. But it's about all these things being in place. If Arsenal win the Europa League, you may not find that City put a bid in. You may find that Leicester are not going to put a bid in. Chelsea look like they're not going to. Why are Chelsea with their riches up front going to put a bid in for Jack Grealish? If Man United re-sign Paul Pogba and bring in Sancho, they're not going to sign him either.
Sancho.
Yeah, so you suddenly. So I get Eduardo's point. It opens up possibility. Like we've said all along, Champions League football is going to be important. And are any of these other clubs actually going to try and sign him? The only option will be is, does he want to leave Villa for Arsenal Football Club? And that depends, as Kate said, on what they present. So if they're in the Champions League, they're spending big, we want to make you the centerpiece. These are the other players that we're signing. We've seen the mistakes of our past, and this is the plan of action to address it. And you're the centerpiece of that. You can sell that to somebody. You can sell it, but you've got to operate right as a football club. If they operate in a tin pot way, like Arsenal have done in the past, Jack Grealish is going to. I don't think Jack Grealish will want to touch it. He's certainly not going to touch it if you're in the Europa League conference and not in the Champions League. He's not going to do that. And I think that's just an obvious thing there. Realist, thank you for coming on, mate, and having your. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you, buddy. Everyone who's tuning in, nearly 1,600 of you live right now. Make sure you're hitting the like button now, subscribing. If you go to the Football Terrace Twitter page, we shared the link for this. Eduardo's Twitter link is in there. Make sure you go and follow him.
I'm forgetting one thing when it comes to Grealish as well, because all of this is a lot of ifs. I've been looking, being a fan of Grealish and him being from Birmingham as well. I look at his career and I've been tracking it. Right now, there's a lot of if Arsenal do this, if this happens, if that happens, a lot of ifs. But if you want to add another if in there, what if Arsenal miss out on Europe altogether due to not being in the right position in the league and losing out on the Europa League, and Aston Villa get Conference League football? There's a chance for him to stay at his club.
There will be no chance for Arsenal to sign Grealish without Champions League, as far as I'm aware. So Arsenal are just playing a game that we're playing basket, and if it doesn't happen, the planning will have to go elsewhere, because we know that Grealish is not going to want to move from Villa if we don't offer Champions League football. So that's impossible. So that's the thing. We are playing against the odds and just wishful thinking at the moment.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. It's based on where Arsenal finish in the league and how they're then going to operate moving forward as a football club. Both those things have to improve to start landing players like Jack Grealish. And it's whether on, that's why these protests are so key. Said all along, you may not be able to get these clubs to sell, but at the very least, you want these clubs to start operating better. Because why would you not want them to operate? But whether you like the owners or not, you should always want the club to be running the right way. That otherwise it defeats the object of what you're protesting against. We have a super chat here that says, Terry, do you think the Arsenal and Man United owners are protesting because they are jealous of owners of City and Chelsea and PSG? Listen, I don't necessarily think it's jealous of those owners. Man United is an isolated case, and Arsenal have such gargantuan fan bases. If they were run correctly, we should be able to compete pound for pound financially with the Man Cities and the Chelseas. they would accept that. It's the fact that we're not run well. It's the fact that we're not operated well. The plan of action's poor. Eduardo made a point about signing substandard players. I've seen lots of sort of memes mocking Man United fans for protesting when we have one of the highest net spends of the last 8 years. One net spend isn't real in the grand scheme of things, but that's the reason to protest, because we've hemorrhaged the club's money on 80%. 80% of the players we've hemorrhaged that money on have not been good enough. You know, Arsenal, just to take it to this season, are paying Willian between 250 and 300 grand a week to do nothing. They spent 72 million on Pepe. They didn't do their research on these players, and they've hemorrhaged collectively hundreds of millions of pounds on inadequate players. It's not about not spending per se. It's about spending and operating in the right way. These two things have to go together like birds and feathers, hands and gloves, fish and chips. If you have one without the other, or you have them both operating in the wrong way, you're never going to be successful. People have got to understand it's not black or white. It's you spend or you don't spend. It's a combination of everything together being operating in the right way. That's my response. We're going to get some more calls here. Tom Little's on.
Totally agree.
Thank you, Eduardo. Tom's with us here. Tom, that beer you're drinking?
Yeah, that's bank holiday, isn't it?
Right,
Are you allowed to?
I'm allowed to.
Come
No one's going to stop me here, Ardy.
Oh, nice one. Nice one. Look at that. Go on, mate. What are you here to say, bro?
I heard Coutinho being brought up before, and I saw the Everton links the other day, and I'd rather he went to Arsenal, to be honest. I'd rather he went elsewhere than Everton. But I think Arsenal may well be worth taking the risk on Coutinho in a sense over Grealish, because you're going to get him for a cut price, and you've got other areas to focus on as well. You in a sense, I know there's a risk in spending 30 million on 3 players instead of a guaranteed 80. But if them 30 million come off, then you set up again. I've seen my club in the state Arsenal are in right now. You know, we were taking gambles on Coutinho and on Sturridge, and they came off. But we also took gambles on Mamadou Sakho and the likes of
Andy Carroll,
Balotelli and that. Andy Carroll, don't get me started on him. But like, you have to, in a sense, take the risks and fall to push on again. So let's say they spend let's say they sign 30 million players and one of them doesn't come off and it's a flop, but the other 2 do. Then you're in a much better situation than if one player comes in and works well. Because as much as we like to think Jack Grealish is a guarantee, we don't know what he'd be like when he's not a big fish in a small pond, because that's what he is right now. At Arsenal, he wouldn't be the main man in a sense. He'd be one of them, but he'd be one of multiple alongside Tierney, Gabriel, Aubameyang, Saka. So how would he adapt to that? That's the risk.
Yeah, I hear that. Eduardo, what's your thoughts on what Tom said? I'm not sure if Eduardo might. You there? Can you hear us?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I can. I think he has a point. Of course, everybody has his way of thinking, but I personally think that Coutinho is not the right man for me. If you want to see it that way, you could take a risk on Buendia, and there are other players that I would take ahead of Coutinho, because the last few years he's been on the bench on Barca, Bayern. He's been having injury issues, so for me, that's not a risk I would take for 30 million. I would rather take a risk on Buendia personally, and that way you want to go about it. I think for myself that we should go for Grealish. So that's what I can say about.
To be fair, I am very biased towards Coutinho. I don't want him touching Everton with a 10-foot barge pole, so I'm practically trying to sell him myself to clubs.
I can understand that.
I would say something. We did try that.
We
did try that back in 2017. We signed a bunch of players for around 30 to 15 million, and we got Granit Xhaka, Mustafi, Perez. We got a gentleman who never actually played a game for us, a Japanese gentleman. I forget his name right now. And then we also
is it Ryuchi or something like that?
Yeah, so we signed four to five players.
Sano, yeah, Sano, that was it.
Yeah, so we signed 4 to 5 budget players, and it ended up putting us backwards in the situation we're in right now. So I would rather, if we're going to spend that type of money, I would have rather we went for Conte, who would have cost the club around 45 instead of 35 for Xhaka, right? Because you would have paid agent fees of 15 million. I would rather have gone for a better defender than Mustafi, because just a year before that, we were linked to Varane and we ended up signing Mustafi the year after. What a downgrade that is in recruitment. And then you go for Perez. I don't know why we went for Perez when we were still linked to younger, better talented players at the time. We went for a guy who was killing it in Spain. He did get a hat-trick in the Champions League, but he wasn't going to get us Champions League football, Lucas Perez. So
by hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? You know, at the time they were signed, Granit Xhaka was wanted by loads of big clubs. Mustafi was, of course, as one of the most in-demand centre-backs in the world. So Arsenal did well getting them. It's just the profile. Mustafi started well as well. He just lost his confidence and never got it back. But this is a different Arsenal. I feel it's different with Arteta. Not in the sense of, mate, we don't know how good a manager he is, but it's a different way of running, because you've gone past that Wenger era where they were relying on him to unearth these gems of Henry and Vieira. With Arteta, they've invested a lot of money. Gabriel, Willian, you know, these are players that he wanted, that he worked in collaboration with that Keir Jobrichan or whatever his name is, to get. There's the Arsenal board are backing him. They see him as the future for their club. So if he goes out and is able to identify these £30 million footballers, because creative midfield isn't actually your biggest problem right now, because Smith Rowe's doing great. Saka can fill in, although it's not his best position. You know, Lacazette's good at dropping deep as a striker. And Willian, you can get like 3 good games out of him a season, so just use them smartly. And then you can focus on the areas that are needed, like getting a good midfielder to partner Thomas Partey, like getting a goalkeeper who you can sit there and go, we may concede 5 shots on our goal this game, but I back him to save them. Unlike Leno, you can't trust at the minute.
I hear that there. I do hear that. Viewers, everyone that's tuned in with us today, we really appreciate it. Eduardo, thank you very much for coming on with us today. We really appreciate that, buddy. I'm not too sure if you had to shoot somewhere really quickly. You may have to move location.
Thank you, man. I truly appreciate I truly appreciate it. I'm sorry I had to plug in the computer, but if I have to leave right now, so I just want to thank you all. It's a pleasure to talk to each and every one of you, and go hit that like and subscribe button to the Football Terrace and Give Me Sport. Thank you.
Lovely. Take care, buddy. Thank you. And everyone who's tuned in today, a massive thank you to all of you. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very